Regent Street's Christmas lights are the most famous in London, and arguably the most well-known and in fact imitated display in the world. It all started in 1954 in response to an article published by The Telegraph describing central London as drab and dull during the winter. The display has been through many changes, but I've come to St James's Market to meet Paul Dard, the man behind the current Regent Street Christmas lights. You're so glamorous, I was not expecting this. I was expecting very kind of traditional.
Really? No, I'm...
But you're so full of choice.
Well, because I'm very lucky. I decided, at 10, I knew that I was going to be a theatre designer. I was brought up in a pig farm in the middle of Bedfordshire, in a very, poor family, and I can clearly remember the first time my parents put up a Christmas tree in the front room and put some lights on it, and suddenly I realised that zhuzhing works.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? Bringing a
it
tree
is the
into your...
weirdest
Like,
thing.
nobody would ever think of that.
Well, no, it's because it is a very ancient ritual that is obviously pagan. Was taken over by Martin Luther, who used to go into the forest and put candles onto a tree to venerate nature. And we do it because we have to reassure ourselves that spring will come, that there will be another harvest, that we will eat again, and that life is regenerated. That's why the Christians appropriated this moment of celebrating a birth. And it's key. I mean, it's a very early form of sad. It's it's a way of cheering yourself up during the darkest time. But for me personally, it was a moment when I just looked at my parents thinking, why are you doing this weird thing? And obviously there was the story of, the decorations that Mum had kept, over the war and all the things that, that were stories that she was telling. But for me, it was, a very basic sort of, household suddenly was transformed by the power of decoration. I knew then I had to go to art school. I was obviously very young, and I was at the Central School of Art by the time I was 18, because that was the youngest you could go there. And so by the time I was 21, I'd left, with a BA, and I was working in small-scale political and theatre. I was the first theatre designer for a gay theatre company in England. The main two that I most remember are Dear Love Comrades and As Time Goes By, and those were the two landmark ones. But it set the ground rules of that the rules are there to be broken, and that being different is a great advantage.
We look at something like that now and think, oh well, that's fine, that's normal. People do this kind of political things all the time. But back then, it would have been a massive deal.
Oh, absolutely.
And people were enjoying it.
But at the same time, I was also designing theme nights for When Heaven First opened, and, and doing the float for, early gay prides, where you really did get arrested, where the police weren't, very friendly, and there wasn't gay policemen. And, the gay generations that have come on afterwards are built on the shoulders of people who were revolutionaries, who, when we did a tour of As Time Goes By, we went to Belfast, and, we had a BBC crew with us, and we had to have police protection because, Paisley started a Sodomy Out of Belfast campaign. And so you could hear them, during the show, shouting and screaming outside. And there were people crying inside because they'd never seen two men kiss on stage before. And so in a way, my work is still based on that. I like to shock. I like to make people think about what they're looking at. And also be very flippant but also very serious about what I do, because I'm very lucky. I get to do and be paid very handsomely for doing something that I would do for nothing. I'm built to do this. I would do it innately if I was on a desert island, but I'm very lucky to be able to have the technology and also the staff and the backup to be able to achieve these things.
What does your home look like at Christmas then? Do you do it for yourself, or do you get bored?
I do, and there is a book, and I'm just in the middle of decorating the house.
Christmas by Paul Darts.
Indeed,
yes.
And thank you for the plug.
Yeah.
And it's my therapy, because it's completely the opposite end of doing all of this engineering and doing this scale of things. My other half sometimes finds me sort of zhuzhing on the stairs at 3 a.m. He's sort of.
It's always at 3 a.m, regardless if it's sort of corporate
usually because I work at night, and then you come home and you're still you're still buzzing, you're still sort of I've been sleeping all day, and so you'll have a sort of glass of wine, and I'll sit there sort of doing something, and in a way, it's nice to do something that's purely for me, that's on a small scale, although it's on a relatively house-sized scale. But it's the other end of Christmas, where it's much more to do with sort of display, but at the same time it's about the transformation of your everyday space, and I'm lucky to have a relatively large house to be able to sort of do different schemes in different rooms, and but I'm under strict instructions to take it all down in spring, because
spring?
Well, in 12th night.
When is an acceptable time to put up and take down the decorations?
Personally, some elements of my decorations stay up all year.
Right.
And
they change on an annual basis then?
I have my pet sort of looks because of the nature of the house and what suits the house, and because it's period and what is my taste. Because I like, I'm a designer, I like to be surrounded by objects that inspire me.
So if you were to give the nation a week where it is acceptable to put up your Christmas lights and Christmas decorations in general, what week would that be?
So I don't think there's any rules. I leave quite a lot up.
Right.
And there are certain things which never really get taken down, partly because you can't see they're there. Like I have a snow machine in the back garden, and
you have a snow machine?
Yes.
When do you use that?
Well, it's more, every year we have a party for neighbours and for staff who work for me, and in the past, if there are sort of older people there, or youngsters sometimes, when they come down the back stairway, there's a little, glass doors and stuff into the garden. And so as they come down the stairs, I go, what you don't realise is that there are sensors in the walls, and they will register whether you believe in the magic of Christmas. And so they're thinking, what is he talking about? He's had a sherry too many. And so they don't know. By a drape, there's a little button which I then switch on, which activates an industrial snow machine which is in the garage.
When we're saying industrial, we mean...
Oh, it's quite big, and it comes from a company called Snow Business, which we have used outside. And then that's piped up the back of the building, and it does snow over the garden, because it's again about the theatre. And my partner and I'd always threatened that that on Christmas Eve I would get the filmic snow people in to just snow our garden, so that when all the neighbours woke up on Christmas Day, they would get up and go, those blooming queens, look, it's just snowed in their garden. I mean, really, this is taking it too far. It is my birthday present to myself. I always have a little chat with the goddess and go, could you make it snow on, because my birthday's in February, and usually it snows around that time in England. And,
apart from today, where it...
Well, it's a little bit. And so there are no rules, because Christmas isn't even celebrated on the same day across the world. There's all sorts of different traditions.
January, if you're in Russia.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it's up to you.
I must touch on this because I'm not sure how you feel about this, but as the 12 Days of Christmas kind of went on, in 2014, Mr. Peabody and Sherman kind of took over your entire story.
Yes.
Was that a decision you were told about?
No, we had nothing to do with it. We just designed the initial 12 Days concept, and then it was up to, the then marketing people in the Crown and the way they felt about developing the idea.
That just killed it.
Yes.
That killed it.
Well, it wasn't. it was of a time when they were still, accepting sponsorship. It's very different now. They don't have any sponsorship at all. People see decorations in the middle of a very large street, like, Regent Street. They don't really ever think, where do they come from and who pays for them? And they do cost a lot of money, and it does take years to sort of get these things organised, and these landowners are big commercial companies. Christmas around the world is a very strange thing, and it's very obviously because it gets celebrated in different ways. It's then designed in different ways. I think that most probably Europe, and in particular England, our whole focus is on the Christmas festivities. Obviously in America it gets spaced out because of
Thanksgiving, you've then got Halloween, which is massive there.
And obviously in Germany or Austria it's completely different too. And so we are very obsessed with it. When I did the tropical theme for Carnaby Street, that was because we were in St Thomas on Christmas Day, weirdly enough waiting for a boat to turn up for a gay cruise around the Caribbean, and we were, as one does, and we were early, so we left the bags in the cab and were walking around the shops, and they were playing calypso and reggae carols, and I just said to my other half, this is just so fab. It's their way. They've reinterpreted the celebration of the season. And so I was in a meeting at Carnaby Street, and they went, we're not sure about what we're going to be doing. And weirdly enough, we were going back to the Caribbean for that year, and I just went, well, I don't care what you're doing, because we're going to go and have a hot Christmas. And then they looked at me and went, that's a great strapline. And I said, well, I've always wanted to do that, and so then I told them that story. And that's the reason why then we ended up sculpting, 8 metre, parrots and God knows what else.
It was brilliant. And it's so different.
Yes. And again, I've been very lucky that we had clients like Carnaby Street that wanted to, expand the boundaries of what was considered a Christmas decoration.
And just as I was looking over there for a second, I noticed at least 3 families, all ages, looking and taking photos of these sites. So one, how do you feel when something like that happens, when you see people warm to your lights so much?
Obviously part of me goes, I know, yes, I'm right, this works. It's the same as doing, shows. It's lovely when people appreciate what you do. It's not the key reason that I do it. I would have to say I am quite selfish in that this is about my world, and people enjoying what I do is very satisfying. I am an individual and I am an outsider, so I think it's lovely that they appreciate what I do and get great joy out of it, and it's marvellous to show off, and it's lovely to do all of those things, but I don't need to witness it. I don't need their endorsement to know that it works, because when I create these things, it's in my studio on my own at 3 o'clock in the morning, coming up with what is going to work for me, and if it works and gives me joy, then hopefully it gives other people joy. Yes, exactly.
But everyone does it so differently. Christmas Day is different between families. What does Christmas Day with your family look like?
My family, generally speaking, Christmas for me is really a time of reflection. I actually like a very quiet, very private. My partner and I have been together for 35 years. I don't have any family anymore, they're all gone. His family is all up north. This Christmas we will be staying in Bruges, just to have a sort of historic sort of town centre sort of Christmas. We have an ongoing sort of agreement that we do one hot Christmas, one cold Christmas. He likes hot, I like cold. So last year we were in Laguna for 6 weeks on the beach. So I like variety. We do sometimes spend Christmas in the house, but not generally.
When do you start thinking about next year?
Now.
Now.
I've already started, we've been having meetings here and with other clients already, because as soon as it's up, they want to talk about the next year. So no, and then there are some projects that I'm working on which take more than 1 year, so they're sort of 2 and 3 years in advance, because they're much bigger and they're abroad. So yes, it never stops.
Way in advance is what you're telling
always
me.
going on.
That's so wonderful. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you.
You're
and I
very
have
welcome.
a massive request for you.
What's that?
Can I come and see your workshop?
Yes, of course. I like a lot of stuff.
I genuinely had intelligent things prepared to say earlier on, and now this has all kind of blown my mind because it's not what I imagined in the slightest. Really? I mean, you get outside and you think it literally looks like it's run down, and then I think I saw a gentleman just walk in just before I rang the door, and it was gold on the inside. I was like, the contrast. It's kind of like walking in through a portal. So I've been parked inside this meeting room. Direct contrast to the outside. It's so glammy. Bits of things from all over. I'm not sure how much of this will make it in because there is stuff in here I actually can't talk about. A scale mock-up of one of the Regent Street angels. Glitter balls. I think this was at Carnaby Street one year. So I can look at myself in this mirror and think how great I am. But I wouldn't do that. It's messy, but in an artistic way, and I love it.
More is more, you see.
I quoted you on that.
Well, it actually comes from a very famous new Hollywood designer. His mantra was "more is more," and my mantra goes on to "and less is a bore," because I'm not a modernist at all.
Right.
In fact, I should really be. I'm more of a Baroqueist, and I should be working with Inigo Jones doing some mad opera at the Mansion House.
This is where you chair all your important meetings, I suppose, the boardroom.
Well, since COVID, we rarely see a client here, to be quite honest. Once in a blue moon. Clients love coming here. You know, even if we do Zoom meetings from here, they love seeing a bit of glamour behind us. It seems silly to have all this stuff and just put it away in a box and not see it.
It's just totally different to what I would have imagined.
What did you expect to see? Just an office?
Pretty
with
much.
me behind a grey desk going...
No, pretty exactly that.
I mean, if you want sort of scattered bits of broken decorations, well then they're downstairs.
With that being said, can we have a look around?
Yeah, of course.
Turn my back.
So this is the team.
It's much smaller than I imagined.
Well, you don't often say that, but there you go. Technical, Abby's HR, and Adil tries to keep us all under control. That's her heart. And this is all production. My little team over here. Hello. This is electrical on this side, the grumpy lot. Look, there you go. Production managers. This is engineering. Not that you'd know that there's many. They seem to be on strike, but there you go. So this is usually full of people building stuff, but you know, at this time of year, an empty space means that it's all out.
It's all out.
We're very happy.
Fabulous. See, this is more like what I imagined it would be.
So this is where we show prototypes. It doesn't look like you could do now, but actually there are blacks that pull around the whole of the space, and this is where we've shown.
Do you rig stuff?
Yeah,
You've got
yeah,
winches
exactly.
around.
Exactly.
Was that, you know, the photo of you standing with the
that was
German
here.
Street angels?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's a piece of theatre. So our Steel Boys. He doesn't know where he is. He's no idea.
It's brilliant because it is a complete Christmas factory.
So that's it.
Thank you for showing me round your fabulous home. Lovely to meet you, by the way. Good luck in Cyprus.
Hi, it's Corey. To watch the next part of this episode, click this link here. And to subscribe, it's this one. I'll see you in a bit.